Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on November 24th, 2022 at approximately 8:46 a.m. PST. Well, and we already have one in the bin. Welcome, Raven. Looks like you got the gold medal today. Glad you could make it. I've been taking a look at a lot of things, not the least of which is how do you actually get back on track when you've been pulled off? Now, months ago, I started actually probably close to a year ago. I initially set out to have the third installment of the Yldrbac Chronicles in print by the end of the year. Due to way too many complications with so-called professional companies, and my own inability to cope with it, that is not going to happen. I should have it finished writing, but I'll still have to do the final edit on it. So it's looking more and more like we'll end up with it coming out in early spring. Good morning, Joe. How are you doing? Oh yes, I should have said that. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Come to think of it, I should have made that comment to my other half. Hopefully Thanksgiving goes well for you. I let a lot of things get in my way. And of course, the last couple of weeks has just been a nightmare. I haven't been sick in 25 years, so getting double pneumonia did not help. It was funny though, because I never went to get checked. And of course, everybody I talked to, oh, you probably have COVID. And there's similar symptoms. Well, when you think about it, there really are. But there's also similar symptoms between the flu and the common cold. For me, it boiled down to I already knew what I was feeling. And since I'm reclusive anyway, why worry about it? But where things went sideways for me, as far as writing went, is I've got a very specific goal in mind. Oh, what time is it? Oh, okay. Today is Thursday, so that's 8:48, 9:48. I know for a certainty I'll only be on for an hour today because my artist out of England is calling me at 10 o'clock PST, which gives me about an hour here. But with that in mind, what he's phoning for is to make sure we get what are we at? We're in book 12, so book 1 I've already got the artwork for. He's going to be calling to make sure we get the artwork for book 2 for the Rise of Yldrbac. Okay. Needless to say, this is a very big project, and one of the biggest tricks of getting on track, of staying on track for what you're looking for with your life, is literally pick a direction. You literally pick a direction that you desire to go. Put your goals down in point form, and I've talked to people about this for years. Okay, you write them down in point form because you break each goal down into a 15-minute to half-hour task. That way you can get it racked off, and you can see that you're making progress towards the overall goal. Okay, now don't forget, if you don't know how to go about doing something, talk to somebody that has done it effectively, that has successfully done it themselves. Okay, if you desire to become a millionaire, don't talk to me. Okay, I can tell you how to make your money work when you're dealing with minimal, but I'm not a millionaire. Therefore, I cannot quantifiably say, look, this is how you become a millionaire. Give me a few years, we might be able to talk about that. Okay, now where it comes to writing, where it comes to internal continuity in a story, absolutely talk to me. I'm also more than willing to talk about such things as the hiccups in modern Western astrology, which I know will upset some people because I found some critical flaws in it. But this is why I say communication with those around you is absolutely critical. Now, I will tell you, the first step in all of that is this funny little sign here. Okay. I keep that one handy. Okay. But I've got that, right? Because, well, this one's a little clunkier. But that is done with a magnifying lens and sunlight. That's it. But those 4 words, I am worth it, are bar none the best combination of 4 words in any language I've heard. Okay, regarding rebuilding self-esteem, self-awareness, self-focus, you get the picture. Okay, it's also imperative that we realize that no matter who you're dealing with, no matter where they come from, they're in exactly the same position you're in. And this is why prejudice doesn't work well. Okay, because every single one of us, every person that is in existence today, every entity that is in existence is right here, right now. And this is the only time in your life you're ever going to change the direction your life is going. You cannot do it in the past. It's already been done. Whatever you've gone through, okay, is no less important than what the person next to you is going through. Okay, because to them, like for instance, if a 5-year-old comes to you and they've lost their shoe, this it may seem like a very minor thing, especially if you've got extra pairs of shoes handy. Okay, but for that 5-year-old, okay, them losing that shoe is absolutely devastating. Them losing a 3-year-old losing a favorite stuffed animal or a favorite blanket to them is absolutely devastating. Okay, this can be as devastating to them as you're losing a job or you're losing a contract. Okay, ultimately, it boils down to you're the one that's going to have to realize that whatever you're going through is likely of a similar caliber to what other people are going through. Okay, now let's just hope that didn't take a kick out wrong. I'm just bringing my other thing up so I can actually see what's going on, and I don't need that. Now, the nice part about it, when you take a look at the situation, okay, when you take a look at what's going on around you, by realizing that you're in the same boat as everybody else. Now, I've been looking at this other thing here. I've got a brand new car, and I was looking at the issue of replacing it so I could have the right color car. And I got thinking about just about a week ago here while I was laid up. Got thinking about it and going, yeah, I could buy a brand new car that has the extra bells and whistles and it has the color I was looking for. But then I got thinking that's a $40,000 paperweight because I don't drive very much anymore. So if anybody can give me a logical reason as to why I should bother buying the new car, absolutely let me know. Emotionally speaking, I understand. It's a status thing. And frankly, I've come to the conclusion my status is the least of my concerns. By the way, these same topics I'm talking about right now apply to every race, every species I've ever dealt with. Okay. Because they all operate in exactly the same fashion as well. So let's take a step back here and take a look at something else. Okay. Now, I've talked about this idea of putting a list together. Good afternoon, Lawrence. Glad you can make it. Oh, no harm done there. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well, Lawrence. You know, the reality of it is, as a matter of fact, I should probably do that. I'm just going to take a moment out because, frankly, I was talking to my other half this morning, and she happens to live in Utah right now. Yes, we are still planning on bringing her up here so we can get married. But we really should wish her a happy Thanksgiving anyway. The fact that I'm in a different country, though. Oh, absolutely, they're Raven. There are countless situations where the off-worlders run into that, where they're not strong enough, they're not fast enough, or you take, for instance, in amongst the warrior race, you will still find artists and poets. Okay, and they still, just like humans, they still get bullied. It's unfortunate, but like I've always said, the off-worlders are not so much, they're not really that different from us, except they've got better toys. Okay, and in most cases, they have a unified world. This does not mean everybody gets along. If it did, we wouldn't have wars going on out there. The sad reality of it, from that standpoint, is that the off-worlders and the ancient races, much as they have longer life, some of them have longer lifespans. I mean, you take a look at the Laborians, which are a feline race. Okay, they have an average human lifespan. Granted, now average human being about 80 years. Problem is that for them, literally a day is as 1,000 years. So in 1 year, see if I do that right. In 1 year, they will spend 365,000 years as a 1-year-old child. Okay, so if you think you got it bad as a parent, all kinds of neat little complications. Oh, they love to think they're superior. You should see some of the arguments that take place at the Nordic roundtables, at their meeting halls. They are phenomenal. Bloody, but they are phenomenal. Whoops. 365,000 times 80, meaning a Laborian the average Laborian lives in Terran years approximately 29 million years. Okay. Haven't quite got that far yet there, Joe, but thanks so much and welcome aboard. Yeah, we have talked about it. And it's a question of getting her across the border. I won't ask her to marry me over the phone. I will wait until she gets here. And like I told her, the difficult part for her is believing that the fact I'm asking her does not pin her into anything. But then I've got a different outlook on life. But no, the funny part about it is many of the off-worlders love to carry themselves as though they are superior to humans. The reality is many of them are just plain stuck up. Okay, and they look down on people. Now, the only time in any race that anybody should ever look down on somebody is if they happen to be standing at a higher vantage point or they happen to be taller. Other than that, treat them the same way you desire to be treated. Karmic law still applies across the board. Okay, meaning do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Be true to yourself first, and energy out, energy in. You take care there, Lawrence, and make sure you make the most of the day you've got. But thank you so much for dropping in. The reality is there are a lot of things taking place that we have control over. And one of the primary reasons I came back to this world at this point is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, there are certainly going to be people that are not happy. Okay, there are certainly going to be people that take a look at the way their world is and go, I want to be lauded upon. I deserve to be treated better than everybody else. Okay. Well, I'm going to pop a couple of bubbles there. Number one, most ETs are actually not telepathic. Most of the off-worlders and ancient races speak their own language and have different communication methods. But in all fairness, very few of them are actually telepathic. Okay. Secondly, virtually none of, well, to the best of my knowledge, there isn't a single entity in existence in the third dimension that jumps dimensions. Everything you see, everything you hear about is third dimensional. Now, there is an interesting situation here where what people are calling in different dimensions may simply be a different vibratory rate. Okay, now all matter moves at its own rate. Okay, and it moves back and forth. Well, if you take your hand and you just hold it steady, okay, and move it slowly, you can track it real easy. Okay, but when it moves faster, you'll lose track of it. You see that little tracer behind it? It's hard to see the hand. That's because the matter is vibrating faster. It's moving faster. And when it vibrates at a high enough level, matter can pass through matter. And the reason for that is because of the fact that when you're dealing with vibratory rates, you vibrate something, and they found this out with the Manhattan Project. Yeah, we'll get to Christmas next month. I've made it a rule myself. In my household, we don't turn on Christmas movies. We don't turn on Christmas. We don't sing Christmas songs or read Christmas stories until we don't even decorate until the 1st of December. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But December is the month that we deal with Christmas. Okay, now the only exception to that I look at is for those of you that put decorations up outside. I certainly recommend you put them out before the snow flies. Primarily because, well, frankly, I don't like going outside in the snow. But that's beside the point. And that's where Christmas ends for me before December. But when we're dealing with vibratory rates, okay, an entity moving its molecular superstructure faster than the molecules around it can fit between the molecules and thereby pass through solid objects. In other words, what you would see as astral travel or the movement of a ghost. Now there are many races that can move in various fashions, not the least of which, and I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but there are many people on Earth, and you're more than welcome there, Raven. There are many people on Earth that have gone through this, many people in many places, where you're walking along and all of a sudden and there's reports all over the place of people disappearing from, for instance, downtown New York and showing up on the River Thames in England with no passport because they were only out for dinner. And they all of a sudden are over there. It's because there are things called physical wormholes. Okay. And can those be navigated? Absolutely. I used to, when I was traveling through the mountains and working on the coast, right, with witnesses. We drive along, and bearing in mind that trip was supposed to be a 4 to 4.5 hour drive. We go driving along, we make the trip, and I watch my speed because I do not speed anymore. I speed a lot less, but we watch our speed, and it's only 80 kilometers an hour. Good morning, Chad. How you doing? In other words, about 60 miles an hour, we'd be traveling down through the road. We'd make the trip to Vancouver. Not only would we do it in 3.5 hours, but our odometer would be 100 kilometers short, or 75 miles short of what it should have been. And like I said, this was with witnesses. Okay. And you have to take this sort of thing into consideration. These are part of the current reality. Okay. But everybody I know of has the same problem, in as much as get an idea in your head of what you desire your life to work like. Okay. And the real kicker to it is this. Take a look at the path you're on. Ask yourself, is what you've got around you working towards attaining the goal you desire? Okay. If the answer is yes, carry on. Okay. If the answer is no, it is time to start removing the clutter. Start moving anything that is stopping you from attaining your goals. And really focus on those one step at a time things. Okay. Now, I had a goal for myself. Okay. That I was aiming to drop below 200 pounds before the end of December of this year. Now, I hit a plateau for a couple of months. And then in an odd sense, I got lucky. Okay. No, not in that way. I ended up getting ill. And in a matter of about a week, I dropped just under 10 pounds, but that dropped me below the 200-pound mark. I'm currently aiming to see if I can hit the 80 and the 180 mark by the end of the year now. Okay, and considering I'm down to 193.6 this morning. Okay, yeah, 193.6 this morning. It is still a doable thing. But here's the thing with health. Understanding I am not a professional, I'm not a professional fitness instructor. But I've seen this new batch of doctors coming out, and they come out with these neat little medications. Oh, you don't have to exercise anymore, and the amount you eat doesn't matter. Okay, and my immediate response is, quite frankly, do you want a shovel or a backhoe? Because I dropped the weight by simply increasing my activity level and cutting down the amount of food that I was putting in. Okay. And with that in mind, it's a simple case of mathematics. If you're putting less calories into your body than you're burning, you'll drop the weight. And that's the other part of that little particular goal, especially as we start heading into Christmas. Okay, or in this case, with Thanksgiving. Everybody talks about diets. I got to lose weight. I got to drop the weight. Psychological hiccup for you. When you're looking at getting rid of weight, okay, you get rid of it. Literally, I find that if you're dropping a pound to a pound and a half a week, you're doing it in a healthy fashion. Now, like I said, I am not a medical doctor. Okay. But these are methods I personally have used or personally do use. Okay, when you've got a goal in mind, break it down into smaller, attainable goals. Okay, and it's absolutely something to consider where it comes to the layout of your house. Okay, if your hallways are cluttered, it's kind of like clogging the arteries in your body. Okay, get the clutter out of the way. so that you can actually turn around. Okay, and get the clutter out of the way so that you can actually turn around and get the energy flowing in your house. Because here's what happens. You get the clutter out of the way, get things more organized. Number one, you'll find your energy levels climb. Whatever depression you are working on, okay, will reduce itself because the energy is moving faster. You'll sleep less, assuming that is one of your goals. Now, personally, where it came to sleep, I figured I got bored one day. And I went, okay, people talk about requiring 8 hours of sleep a night. Okay, and I got thinking about it, and I'm going, 8 hours of sleep means you're sleeping a third of your life away. So I figured, okay, what would happen if you cut your sleep down to only 4 hours a day, providing you do not lose health, you do not lose quality of life, and you're capable of functioning properly? Needless to say, we're not totally healed yet. But I turned around and did the calculation, and what I found out was this. You cut it down to 4 hours of sleep a night, and over the course of just 1 year, you gain approximately a month and a half living time. Okay, net result, you're going to feel like you got a lot more accomplished during the year. Okay, and again, if you're feeling like you're not getting anything done, this may be part of the problem. Okay, myself, I find if I sleep more than 6 hours, I'm absolutely wiped out. Aside from the last couple of weeks when I've been sleeping 12 to 14. Something to do with not being able to breathe right. But, and I've mentioned this to you before, when you're dealing with people, talk to the ones that have successfully done it. Okay, one of the things I am doing with the Yldrbac Chronicles here, okay, with these two here. Okay, oh, by the way, speaking of this, hopefully within the week here, I should have my Amazon store up and running. Okay. But with the Yldrbac Chronicles, the third one, I'm going to be laying out some of the necessary components. Where are we here? Uh-oh. I think you missed part of what you were trying to say here, Raven. Because all you've written is, and then shrunk. It did this in rapid succession 5 to 6 times. Do you know what the meaning of that flashing is? Unfortunately, I'm missing. I'm just looking here. Yeah, we're missing part of the question. But if you'll be kind enough to add that, I will do my best to answer it for you. Because at this point, frankly, you got nothing to work with. But, the reality of it is, these are post-apocalyptic, but in the Return to Paradise, which I've already got the cover work done for, I will be covering the layout for really rebuilding a society. And this is something that we can actually put to work now if we start working together and start really putting things back on track. Okay, very necessary to get focused on that and to really take a look in the mirror and go, this is what I'm aiming for. Okay, because the reality is when you're putting society together, and this applies to whether we're talking about in your own home or in a community or in a full-size country, the same thing applies. Laws have to apply to everybody equally. Okay, if they do not, society will fracture it will develop a secondary culture. Okay. And if that happens with that secondary culture, if in that secondary culture you do not have equal responsibility to follow the laws, regardless of your income. Okay. Oh, this stupid. I really wish I had some clue as to how to stop this from happening altogether. We just hide that altogether and just remove everything from it. Because I don't need those. Don't get me wrong. Oh, okay. I'm just reading what you got here, Raven. Okay, I filmed the UFO 2 nights ago that I've seen for the past few years. It did something unusual. It flashed brightly and grew in size and then shrunk 5 or 6 times. It did this. Okay, the flashing is a way of communicating. Okay, the level of luminosity. In other words, the brightness of those flashes, especially if it was changing colors at the same time. Okay, is a way of being absolutely certain that the whole message gets out, because color, luminosity, the cyclic rate, all of these things contain messages in between them. So what you're looking at is communication efforts, and depending on where they were situated, if it was only one, okay, odds are there was somebody else in the neighborhood that was out of sight of you. Okay, the reason for the repetition is to make sure the entire message gets through and gets picked up. Okay, 6 being the number of communication when we're looking at base 12 numerology. Okay, and yes, it applies to them as well. Okay, because everything vibrates at a certain level. Okay. The whole 9 yards of it does. But what you have to remember is when you're dealing with them. Okay, what do we got? Pink, purple, and blue. Yeah, the shifting, that's actually a neat little trick of their technology. It's not so much the ship necessarily changes shape, but because of the intensity of the luminosity, they do operate in static geometric patterns. Okay, one of the other patterns I've seen happen, like obviously people have seen saucer shaped, your cigar shapes. Many times you'll see a spiral shape as well. Okay. And again, the shapes and the speed of it, the whole 9 yards. It's a very complex communication level used in optical communication from ship to ship. Oddly enough, it actually helps cut down on the air chatter. Okay, and some of these, and the thing you got to remember, now depending on the saucer, okay, the standard saucer shape that people show, or that people see. Oh, that's always entertaining. You got 5 hours of missing time. Okay, well, the first thing you can extrapolate right off the bat. Now, obviously, I can't give you a definitive, okay, but from an extrapolation standpoint, first and foremost, they were making certain that you knew they were there to hold your attention. And part of that flashing is to lock your brain, okay, is to hold your attention if it works. Now, do I feel you were in danger or that anything bad has happened? Frankly, no. I'm presuming this was a standard saucer shape. And with that in mind, the odds are that the race you were dealing with was either gray or Nordic, and likely a combination of the two. Okay, because quite often they travel together. So when you're looking at that, you've got the 5 hours missing time. Take the time to sit down and really run things through your head, even if all you get is an image or a flash of a feeling. Okay, write it down. Put down the date that it happened. I recommend you start this today. Okay, if you haven't already, start documenting it. Do so. Okay, but write down the date that this event occurred, and take any bits and pieces, even if it's just fragments. Write them down and put them in a file so you can track them. Because the missing memory that you've got isn't missing. All that's happened is the data tree to find it has been misplaced, has been erased. Very much like what happens in a computer. If you delete a file from a computer, that file isn't actually gone. It's just the data tree for it. The path to get to it has been deleted. That's all they've done, but that can be rebuilt in your own head. Okay, but what you watch for, and it's imperative that you remember to write down not only the events or the things you remember seeing, but what you remember feeling about it. Okay, as in, did you feel did you feel celebration? Did you feel like you were being treated in some special fashion, or is it more of a negative thing? Okay, and bear in mind, one of the biggest reasons that these guys will block out that memory is because they're doing their level best to ensure you can maintain a reasonably normal life. Okay, that's just the reality of it. And it's sort of one of these things that we have to take a look at and go, okay, you're dealing with this situation, and it's going to leave a mark. I am curious though, Raven, is this the first time you remember this happening? Okay, because the reality is it may only happen once, it may never happen again, or it may. It's a flip of the coin depending on what they're looking for. Okay, but does it feel like your life is in jeopardy or you're in danger? Not at all. Well, at least that's consistent. You always look one side or the other depending on where they are. If it happened last year as well, okay, you start with the memory from this year. Okay, simply because it is the freshest one. But as you're bringing it together, and it does bring to mind this other little detail, as you're going through the memories, it may bring back memories of past ones. Well, that's no fun. Been there, done that. Not a fun experience. And I do feel for you from that standpoint. Okay, I'm presuming this means that this time you didn't feel like you were drugged and or violated. Okay, but this is part of your life now. Okay, it's not something that goes away. If you do not go looking into it, it's not a bad thing. That becomes a personal call on your part. Okay, and it becomes a personal call on anybody's part. The thing I'm always concerned with, where it comes to, I'm glad you do there, Raven. The thing that concerns me is I see too many people that go through something like you have, Raven, and they'll approach a so-called UFO researcher, and they'll say, this is what I went through, and it'll be discarded, or you'll be told, the person will get told, oh, that's just your imagination. It's just because you want to be special. I'll tell you, I have never met a true abductee that made it up to say, oh, I want to feel special. The last thing people want to do is have this kind of experience where you feel like you're completely out of control. Okay, When I started my journey with these different races, it was very much on the negative side. And it's only been in the last 10 years, well, really the last 5 years, that some of the damage that was done when I was a child was finally repaired. Okay. This is why, the reality of it is this journey you're on, Raven, is just an added little wrinkle in reclaiming power over your life. Because the more you understand about what you've gone through, even the missing time or forgotten information from relationships in the past, okay, the more you remember. I love the way a buddy of mine put it. Okay, where he said, to know oneself is to know all. Okay, now it's not entirely accurate, but it certainly puts you on the right track. Okay, because remember, we all have a history. Everybody's is unique. Okay, and what you've gone through may not be what somebody else went through. But I'll tell you, growing up on a hobby farm, okay, I was absolutely terrified of horses. Okay, as in they got near me and within 15 feet. And my hands would shake so bad I couldn't hold on to anything. Okay. And it wasn't that the horses had done anything wrong, in all fairness. But for me, that was a really traumatic complication. Walking out of the morgue didn't bother me. It was a little confusing why the guy was sleeping on the floor. But the reality of it is, when I take a look at the situation the things are going through, okay, sort of, to know oneself is to know all, is the way it was put to me. Just writing it in there to make sure we got it straight here. What this really boils down to, okay, is the more you know about how you respond and what triggers you. Okay. The more you understand, the easier it is for you to treat people the way you desire to be treated. Little hard to treat people the way you desire to be treated if you don't know how, if you don't know what that looks like. Okay. But the one thing I have found with people, okay, is this. And this is where the media gets it completely scrambled. Most people that are breaking a law, they are looking for some sort of attention. Okay, it got put to me one day. I was talking to a gentleman. Well, it was a student. And he looked at me and he goes, I think the media's got it all wrong. All these terrible school shootings are not because they're out to kill a whole pile of people to start with. Most of these deplorable school shootings are because kids aren't being listened to. Now, way back in the 70s, there was a show that came out called Postal. It was a horror show where a guy had just he got so fed up with society, he went on a killing spree. Now, this is a lousy way to deal with anything. Okay. In all fairness, if you look at it, in all of recorded history, whether we're talking on this planet or another planet, never, ever, ever has war ever brought peace. Okay. It has never worked as a deterrent for other wars. It has never painted a picture that said, hey, this is a better option. War does bring about quiet. Okay. But we have to realize if we are going to turn this world around, we have to start with our own life. Okay. Now, what you'll find over the next little while here, Okay, from my standpoint, it's pretty cut and dried. From my standpoint, it's pretty cut and dried. I've still got a whole pile of clutter behind me here. Okay, but that's getting moved out of the way. I am at a point here where I still feel I will get the third book completed. I'll get the third book completed in the writing aspect of it before the end of the year, but it looks, sadly, as though, as was suspected, that the actual book itself will be coming out in the spring is what I'm looking at. Okay, one of the problems that I ran into, and you'll run into the same thing, you take a look at the clutter in your house, and it may be an absolute disaster. Now, I know in my case, I used to live in what amounted to a warehouse. I'd have boxes all over the place. Even if you look at some of my older videos, you'll find that these shelves all used to be absolutely jam-packed. This one right up here, right, used to be roofed to ceiling to the shelf, and just absolutely packed. Okay, but it's a major, major endeavor to get rid of a lot of this clutter. The important factor is to make certain that you don't get rid of things that are of sentimental attachment, and not just I've had it around for a while. But I'm not the one to say what is important and what isn't. Not for you. For me, yes. The reality of it is this. If you don't know where to start, absolutely. Getting rid of clutter, I finally managed to get down to a reasonable art. If you don't know where to start, the easiest place is right wherever you are. Now, I recommend wherever you work on your finances, that's where you start. Okay. Because the reality of it is this. You start with the finances because the finances is the backbone to the operations of both your house and your home. The house being the material thing you live in, the home being the emotional thing you live within. But you start by getting that in order, and then start clearing the clutter away from it. That'll give you a place to start. But do it one shelf at a time, one drawer at a time. And you'll find things coming to balance a lot more readily. As you can tell, throat's already starting to seize up, which, just gives you an idea of what I've been going through for the last couple of weeks. I meant to get to this earlier. People have talked to me about dream boards. Okay, a dream board, does a dream board work? Absolutely, just like a list does. When we're talking about a dream, about a dream board, see if I can do this. I'm going to do it the easy way. This gives you an idea of just how much artwork it's going to take to make a dream board effective. Okay, let's say you're aiming to buy yourself a home. Now, aside from the fact that unless you buy it outright, you're only leasing the place, or more to the point, you're renting it from the bank. If you're still paying land taxes, you're leasing the land. You don't actually own it, but that's another issue. If you're looking to buy your own home, okay, first things first, take yourself a sheet of paper, okay, and this will give you an idea of just how complicated this can be, and how much real artwork is required. Draw a square on the paper. Okay. Then you write inside said box, this is my home. And you just write that. Okay, now it can be a little bit more elaborate, or you can take a variation on it. The other one that works really well is this. Still the same idea. You draw a rectangle or a square. As you can tell, I'm not exactly an artist. And you write in it, I own my own. Okay. This is another one that works just as well. You write in it, I own my own home. Either one of these will help draw that energy. Will help draw that energy to you. Now, the addition to that is if you've already got a place in mind, and you're already absolutely set on moving, start packing everything that you do not require to operate to operate your house. And the reason for this is by wiping out the excess material, by packing it up ready to go, what you're doing is pulling the excess energy out of your current living quarters, enabling it to go find your new home. Now, the more detail you put in your description, the more secure or the more easily it is to manifest. I had a client years ago that every time she desired to buy something new, even as big as a new property, she would take a block of wood and carve whatever the item was in as much detail as she desired. Okay. And what she found was that within a year of completing her carving project, she would own that item. And then she'd have the miniature figure of it and the actual item. Now, to me, that was going a little overboard. But if you think about it, there's my art. Okay, might give you an idea of how much faith I put in my art. So when we're talking about dream boards, they work like an absolute charm. They absolutely do work. Same as the list method. And like I said, you can actually combine the two, by writing down, by putting your dream board together. Okay, where it comes to that other question that people ask me, how do I find a partner? Okay, well, the way to find a partner is this. Literally take that sheet of paper, write down all the qualities that you see as making the perfect partner. Okay, now remember, we're not talking a person that is absolutely perfect. We're talking about a person that's perfect for you. This is not written in stone, it's written on paper. But be as detailed as you desire to be. But remember, sometimes it's easier to identify things you don't desire in your life or a quality you don't desire, okay, than it is to identify what you do desire. Okay, like for instance, the same thing applies to clothing, by the way. Sometimes you can look at the way people dress and go, gee, I really like that outfit. I think I'd like to go and get one. But sometimes it doesn't work out quite that way. But when you're writing down the list of qualities, okay, and oddly enough, this is actually the same tool I used to draw my current other half to me. Okay, to bring her out of the shadows so that I could find her. Okay, and the neat part about it was I didn't want to have to, I didn't want to have to do all the work, as it were. I don't know, maybe I'm lazy. But I did make this on the list. I really desired to make certain that person was aggressive enough to be able to state their own mind. I do not deal well with people that don't think. Okay. And, the reality of it is Do I use a dream board? Do I use the list method? All the time. And this is why when I tell people, when I bill myself as a spiritual guide, okay, this is why I tell people I call myself a spiritual guide, because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use, and the philosophies of life I talk about are the same ones I personally live by. Okay, this is the whole thing. You know, there's this comment of talk the talk or walk the walk. Okay, and I personally look at it as walk the talk. If you're going to claim you can do something, okay, this does not mean you're perfect at it. It does not mean you're better than anybody. Okay. But vision boards, you know, where it comes to vision boards, okay, put them someplace where they are visible to you. They don't have to be out in your front room. Okay, I recommend them either in your office or in your bedroom, wherever you are looking at things and wherever you spend the time to think. Now, the reason I qualify the office, and understand, your office is where you work on the material world. Okay, that's where you make your goals and your dreams come to reality. This is why finances become such a critical issue. Okay, now with this in mind, as I do have a very important business call coming in, like I said earlier, I was going to have to cut this one at the hour. So I'm just coming down to a close. But to those of you in the States, again, very happy Thanksgiving. And I will see you again soon. Until then, you know, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really glad you made it through. And Raven, I do hope that has helped and that the information for you actually helped. By all means, if any of you have any other questions, drop me a line at one of the contact points below or leave your comments in the comment section here. Okay. And I will catch up with you again. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.